So I was in prison for 7 weeks. I was on remand. I was never sentenced. I was actually in prison for being sexually assaulted. The 50 women who were in this prison were, apart from myself, 48 women, 2 men, and all the other women apart from myself were very, very vulnerable, very highly addicted to drugs, a lot of domestic violence, a lot of you know, just so vulnerable. And to put these women into prison with 2 men, one who's committed murder and one who's committed domestic violence against his girlfriend. One of these men was 6'3". He was about 30 stone. He wore no female uniform, all male clothes, male big black boots, and we had to call him Laura. We were not allowed to misgender him. We were not allowed to say anything, or we would be locked in our cells for even longer than the 23 hours a day we were normally locked in our cells. We would have no recreation, no visits with our children, no education, no library visits. The way these women are punished is absolutely disgusting. They are so vulnerable. I'm just lucky that no one was raped while I was there, but I know that it's happened, and as we know, it's happened in other prisons. These women have no means of escape, none whatsoever. Okay, they are not as lucky as us. They can't choose to stay home. They can't choose to stay safe. They can't choose to stay away from these men. And what's going to come next? Male screws who pretend to be women, strip searching us, bending us over, checking our cavities when we're standing there with our periods. No, it's absolutely fucking wrong. It's wrong. Thank you all for being here, and I'll just finish by saying I know it's been said before, it's a famous saying, but we can be judged by how we treat the most vulnerable in our society. Thank you.
It's my privilege to work with people after brain or spinal injury. Some of the most vulnerable people in my hospital. Until March, I believed that our commitment to safeguarding and evidence-based practice was total. I was wrong. I listened to a speech by Baroness Nicholson. She spoke about something that I and my colleagues had never heard of. Annex B, an appendix to one of our most robust and successful safeguarding policies, delivering same-sex accommodation, and it still exists. It evolved after 5 decades to protect the privacy of men and women and safeguard the sexual safety of women in healthcare settings. It worked, yet unknown to Parliament or any of us clinical staff, Annex B had been slipped into pages 12 and 13, completely disabling the main policy. It instructs us to suspend reality, to dismiss the large body of evidence, exempting trans people who believe that their gender identity is at variance with their sex. The trans umbrella is very wide, including not only those proposing to reassign gender, a protected characteristic, but also men who cross-dress sometimes, or identify themselves as non-binary or gender fluid, or as a eunuch. You may recognize some of these adult human males. They are all adult human males with no alteration to themselves at all, and yet we are instructed to give them the choice of women's wards. What it says is it tells us to ask discreetly where the person would be most comfortably accommodated, we should then comply immediately or as soon as practicable. This means that the NHS contravenes its own policy, accommodating women next to men against their informed consent. We are expected to believe that the physical reality of sex is superseded by a feeling of gender, that sex no longer exists as a reality or a risk. In Annex B, the word woman, her consent, her wishes and needs evaporate. Women have become furniture, inanimate accessories to man's requirement for a female environment. Some trusts have had a think about women. What if they stop behaving like furniture and express an opinion? Glasgow and Clyde NHS Trust wrote about vocal women and they instructed their staff, number one, to lie, to reiterate that this ward is female only, there are no men present. Number two, to threaten them. She may be moved off that ward. And three, shame. Tell this woman that this is harassment. It's like racism, it's transphobia, and we don't tolerate it in our hospital. This week, Edie Wyatt said that, Edie Wyatt said that the use of shame to erode women's boundaries is rape culture. The word transphobe has become just another shame word to erode women's sexual boundaries and give males access to vulnerable women. We actually can't comply with Annex B, and the law is one compelling reason. The Health and Care Act, formerly the Health and Social Care Act, is the reason. Now, in 2015, the excoriating evidence from the Francis inquiry into the mid-staff scandal led to the introduction of fundamental standards upholding equality and safety, below which care must never fall. Person-centered care, including needs, preferences and wishes. Dignity and respect is in there, including privacy. Consent is so important that a trust would be criminally liable if it fails to uphold it. Safety and treatment, protection from abuse, and duty of candour. Now, this is what I'm working to, and if any of you feel that any woman, her needs have been failed according to this, then contact me on Twitter and we will make a complaint. So what about sexual safety in hospitals? This is the reason for single-sex wards. In 2018, the CQC confirmed over a 3-month period 1,120 sexual incidents occurred on psychiatric wards. Over 3 months. Now, as I was reading the details of Annex B on that evening I discovered it in March, I didn't feel anger, but shame. It was an extraordinary discovery here. It was a betrayal of women, the vulnerable in our society. The bodies of the 3 women I'd been working with that day flooded my mind. Anna, a 21-year-old student whose spinal bleed had caused quadriplegia. She had her voice, but she could not press the bell. She couldn't control her body temperature and had to wear very light clothing. She was also Muslim, would have had to cover up if men were present. Her family were too far away to visit. Physically and psychologically, she had a very difficult journey ahead. And Sarah, a severe stroke had given her left-sided paralysis, and she was plagued daily by psychosis, a terror based in a fear of abusive men. Just imagine following Glasgow and Clyde's advice. Having introduced a man into the single-sex ward, telling her, "There are no men here, stop being transphobic or we'll kick you out." And lastly, Esther, paralysed and without speech or voice, A stroke had destroyed her language. She lacked the ability to make decisions for herself. Therefore, all decisions had to be made by us in her best interests, on best evidence. We could never have argued that mixed-sex accommodation could be in her best interests. We could face legal process in the Court of Protection under the Mental Capacity Act. The right of these women to a safe and private space away from men at one of the most precarious and challenging times of their lives has gone, removed by spineless policymakers under instructions from ideologues. The NHS should have protected women and should not be ignoring the standards in the Health and Care Act or the requirement of the Mental Capacity Act. How on earth did respectful consent fall victim to ideology? It is fundamental to a civilised society and legally protected. NHS England should have resisted such corruption of our values and understood the law. Fighting for the restoration of rights of women in hospital to privacy, dignity and safety. Especially to those who have lost the ability to express their wishes and to speak for themselves. We stand at the boundaries of all women to protect them, and we will win. Yes. Yes.